This Honda step wagon has one of the coolest interiors, and it can be transformed several times. So as you can see right now, it's the standard layout, but if I pull this lever, it turns into a tray table with 2 cup holders, but we're not done yet. If I pull this lever down here, the seat goes to the side so you can get in the back. For this next selection, I'm gonna need to lift this panel up, then pull this lever. Now this seat can be turned around 180 degrees. Now the very back has a trick of its own. First, I'm gonna have to take out the headrests. Now that the headrests are out, we're gonna pull this lever, which makes the back seats totally flat. Further still, if you pull up on the yellow lever, the seat goes up. Now I can store multiple bikes back here, but I'm not done yet. There's one more trick, and with a little bit of movie magic, the whole thing turns into a bed. And I've got one more trick of my own. A 4-inch mattress topper and a comforter set turns this into the ultimate glamping machine. And with my Nintendo 64 hooked up, life couldn't be sweeter. In the meantime though, I might just take myself a nap. This is a JDM Ford Explorer. And I know what you might be thinking, oh, well, what makes it JDM, right? Take a look at the interior. You can see here it's right-hand drive, but not only that, you've got the roadside flare from Japan, and all of the visors are in Japanese. That's right, this thing is a true Japanese domestic market Ford Explorer. And not only that, it's also got a 5-speed manual and the big V6 under the hood, which makes just as much power as the V8. Oh, and to top it all off, check this out. In the back here, you've got a full camping setup with a sink. This thing is awesome on so many levels. I'm so excited to review this car, and I'll be having another video coming out on it soon. It's killer. Here are all the amazing features on this Toyota Estima Lucida. First off, this thing's 4-wheel drive. You've got your backup mirror right here. I call it an analog backup camera. All of your buttons are laid out on top like a keyboard. The handbrake is actually right here as you get into the car. The back seat area has captain's chairs. Every single window, including the back one, has these curtains. And an added bonus, you have a partition. The rear air vents are all on this massive center controller. And even though it's a minivan, you've got more ashtrays than you do cup holders. The middle seats also swivel around 180 degrees. Well, let's take a look under the hood. You'll notice there's no engine here, just an intake. So where's the engine? Well, the Estima is actually mid-engine. This one specifically is a turbo diesel. To top it all off, this thing's riding on some J&B Melver skyscraper wheels. All in all, this is a super unique minivan. I really dig the style of it. This Daihatsu Hijet has one of the coolest features on any K truck. It's this button right here. I'm gonna press it and take a look at the bed. That's right, it's a scissor lift, but it not only does that. Once you set the bed down and pull this lever to this position, it can go from looking like this to this. It's a dump bed. It's got to be one of the craziest features I've seen, not only on a K truck, but any car whatsoever. This is a Mitsubishi Chariot Resort Runner GT, and it is one of the wildest sleepers to come from Japan. First impressions you'll notice about this car is that it is a 7-passenger minivan. It's got 3 rows, they all fold out to a bed. But that's about where the similarities with the average minivan come to an end, because this thing is equipped not only with a 5-speed manual, but a 4G63 under the hood. Mitsubishi pulled this from a Lancer Evolution, and my friends at Hoshi Motion tuned it to 300 horsepower. This is a Mazda Bongo Friendly, and it's the absolute coolest JDM camper van. Here's why. First, it's an auto free top. The camper top pops up automatically with the push of a button. And once you're inside the top portion, you'll notice it's actually pretty roomy. You can fit up to 2 people in here. The main cabin area also has some cool features. The seats fold up and fold flat to make a bed. You've got an AC/DC outlet in the back, and you've got tons of legroom for all your passengers. But to top it all off, it has one of the coolest drivetrains out there. Not only is it a 5-speed manual, it's full-time 4-wheel drive with a turbocharged diesel engine. This van checks off all the boxes and is one of my all-time favorites. This is a Toyota Hi-Ace Living Saloon EX Super Custom. The Hi-Ace is one of Toyota's longest-running vehicle lines, being in production since 1967. This one is a 4th-generation model. The Living Saloon variant is incredibly comfortable and comes with a lot of features like multiple sunroofs for the front, middle, and backseat passengers. Couple that with an amazing engine lineup and you've got yourself one awesome family hauler. This is a Toyota Century V12, and it is Toyota of Japan's flagship sedan. This car was so loaded down with tech and features that Toyota charged over $100,000 back when this car was new, and modern day equivalents of this car cost over $150,000. Every part of this car was designed for the utmost comfort of the passengers inside of the cabin. The seats aren't cloth, they're actually wool because leather was too loud. The air conditioner is the loudest part about this car. You can't even hear the V12 under the hood. This car has so many features that I'll be going over them in a second video, so stay tuned. Here's everything you'll find on a Japanese fire truck. You've got your hoses, and of course it's connected to the water pump back here. You've got 2 fold-down seats. You've got hose connectors and nozzles, slide-out trays. These would be the areas where lights would be, but they had to take them off. Inside, of course, it's right-hand drive, but take a look here. It's a stick. You've got your communications radio here, and you've actually got a cassette player in this one. But perhaps the most ironic thing is it has not 1, but 2, that's hilarious, but 2 ashtrays, and they're both used. This thing is super cool. This is a 3-row Toyota Corolla from Japan. It's called the Corolla Spacio, and it has one of the craziest interior setups I've ever seen. Starting up front, the front passenger seat can be flipped 180 degrees. The middle has built-in booster seats and can fold down into a table. Lastly, the back seat folds up to make a small cargo van. The Spacios are excellent on gas, and now that they're 25 years old, we can start importing them into the United States. This is a JDM Ford Taurus. You can see its right-hand drive and check out the text on the visors. Believe it or not, Ford sold a lot of these Tauruses in Japan with specific Japanese parts like a Mercury Sable front end and some different interior components as well. This particular example came from Ford Nagoya in Nagoya, Japan, and features a 7-passenger interior layout. Pretty cool. This is one of the coolest Toyotas we never got here in the United States, and here's why. First things first, it's a 5-speed car. Second, it's a winter weather package, so it has a heated windshield and idle adjustment. But to top it all off, under the hood, you've got a 2-liter diesel engine that we did not get here in the US. It gets a whopping 45 miles per gallon on the highway. Altogether, this is probably one of my favorite cars. This is a Toyota Grand Via diesel. It's a Japanese import that we didn't get here in the United States, and it has some very cool features. Starting in the back, not only do the seats recline an incredible amount, but they also swivel around. Soft closed doors, an incredible amount of rear climate control. And then up front, you've got a box that acts as a refrigerator and a heater. This one also has backup and clearance sensors for all 4 corners. But the coolest part is under the hood in the form of a 3-liter turbo diesel engine. What's not to like? Here's all of the weird features on this 4-door Nissan hardbody. Idle adjuster, 4-high, 4-low selector, a clinometer for pitch and roll, automatic mirrors, automatic door locks and windows, hidden ashtrays, fully hooked bedsides, and to top it all off, under the hood you've got a 2.7-liter diesel engine. All of that and some vintage graphics, you've got yourself one cool truck. This is a Honda Rafaga, and it has one of the wildest drivetrains I've ever seen in a Honda. What's cool about this is that it's a 5-speed car, but let's take a look under the hood. Take a look at the engine setup. It's an inline 5-cylinder, not 4-cylinder. You guys can see there's 5 here. The transmission is back here, but then the axles are right here. It's super strange. It's a front-wheel drive inline 5 car. I will say though, it's pretty roomy in here, and it's also very sporty. This is the first one of these I've ever reviewed. This is a Nissan Atlas, and while it might look like a K-truck, I can assure you it's not. Matter of fact, the bed is big enough to fit a full-size K-truck on it. Plus, this one's a dually. This one has a standard bed, but you could put on all kinds of beds, like power dump beds, whatever you want. Ones like this come with a 2.7-liter diesel engine, so you got plenty of power. All in all, for American roads, I'd take this one over a K-truck any day. This is a Toyota RAV4J. It's a RAV4 that's been imported from Japan, and here's what makes this one special. According to Toyota, the J stands for joyful, and it comes with a list of features like that roof spoiler, as well as some cool graphics down the side. Inside the car, of course, since it's from Japan, it's right-hand drive, and you've got this really cool pattern on the seats. And to top it all off, this thing's powered by a 2-liter 3S FE engine mated to a 5-speed manual transmission. Altogether, it's one cool Toyota. This is a Honda Civic Pro, which is basically a base model of the 4th generation Civic made for the Japanese market. More specifically, it is the commercial version of the Honda Shuttle with unpainted bumpers. This particular example has a unique history being owned by the Tochigi Prefecture School for Special Needs. On the back of the Civic Pro, you'll find a sticker for cargo weight capacity, and that's because the back seats fold down to make a flat cargo area. As far as the rest of the interior, since it's a commercial spec, it's pretty bare bones. However, you do get a very nice 5-speed manual. And finally, power is delivered by a carbureted 1.3-liter 4-cylinder engine making 82 horsepower. It's pretty neat. I'm going to show you why K-Trucks make amazing work vehicles. It's because in 4 snaps, you've got yourself a completely flat bed, which is great for hauling around crates, engines, anything really. And of course, reinstallation is the opposite of disassembly. And just like that, now you can be hauling off limbs in your yard or whatever else you need. Pretty cool stuff. This is a Mitsubishi minicab, and it's a tiny K-truck made for the Japanese market. This minicab in particular is a 5th generation model and comes with 4-wheel drive, a 660cc engine making 42 horsepower, a 5-speed manual transmission, and a high-low selector. As far as the rest of the truck goes, it's pretty bare bones like most other K-trucks, but what it lacks in features, it definitely makes up for with a very fun and unique experience. This is a Nissan Skyline R34, and it's one of the most sought-after imports from Japan. This particular R34, however, has been heavily modified from tip to tail. The entire body of this car is made from carbon fiber, even the quarter panels. Even the interior is covered with paint-matched carbon fiber. Under the hood, you'll find a heavily modified RB pushing out over 700 horsepower. I have to say, this is definitely the wildest R34 build I have ever seen in person. But what do you guys think? Have you seen any crazier? This is a Nissan President, and it's a luxury JDM car that's been imported to the United States. This particular model is actually a long wheelbase variant called the Sovereign. This car might look familiar to you if you're in the United States because it was the Infiniti Q45 over here as well. However, the President was the pinnacle of luxury for Nissan. It even had a TV in the back. With tons of legroom and tons of luxury options, you won't want to drive this car, you'll want to be driven. This is a Toyota Starlet, and it's a JDM hot hatch that's been imported into the United States. This 5th generation Starlet is nearly a base model with fender mirrors and nearly no options. Matter of fact, these rear speakers were optional. Inside of the Starlet, you will find a 5-speed manual transmission as standard. Lastly, it's powered by a 1.3-liter 4EFE engine making 75 horsepower, which gives it a similar power-to-weight ratio as a Honda Civic of the same vintage. Pretty neat. This is a Mazda Unos Roadster, and if it looks familiar to you, it's because it was sold in North America as the Mazda Miata. Because this car was made for the Japanese market, you'll find some parts on it that are different than an American spec Miata, like the side markers, some different badges, and of course the fact that it's right-hand drive. The interior is pretty standard with a center console and glove box for storage, 2 cup holders, and a 5-speed manual. Lastly, it's powered by a twin-cam 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine making 120 horsepower, which makes this thing an absolute blast to drive. This is a Honda Acti, and it's one of the most widely known K-trucks to come from Japan. Matter of fact, this truck is what most people think of whenever you mention the words K-truck. And that's because Honda produced hundreds of thousands of them. Most imported Actis use a 3-cylinder engine making about 44 horsepower. The bed folds down completely flat for loading crates. Like most K-trucks, the Acti's interior is pretty bare bones with minimal features. 5-speed manual transmissions and 2-wheel drive were standard, but 4-wheel drive and automatics were optional. These things are cheap and pretty cool. This is a Toyota Vista. It's the Japanese version of the Toyota Camry that we got here in the United States. This particular Vista is equipped with some options like this parking pole as well as an air purifier. One of the coolest things about the Vista is the pillarless windows. And of course, we can't forget about that beautiful burgundy interior. Lastly, this is a 5-speed model mated to Toyota's 3S FE engine, making 126 horsepower, which makes it comfortable, fun, and reliable. This is a Mitsubishi Delica. It's a JDM van that's been imported to the United States. The Delica came in multiple variations and specs like 2- and 4-wheel drive. The Delica is also very popular amongst campers with plenty of mods to support it. Inside the typical Delica is a host of aftermarket add-ons and upgrades. And like most vans, privacy curtains all the way around for the rear passengers. Overall, these things are super fun, super capable, and put a smile on just about anyone's face. This is a Toyota Mark II. It's a sports saloon that was made for the Japanese market by Toyota. This particular car is a 7th generation X90 model, and it is a grand trim level, so it has a lot of luxury features inside. But don't let those seat doilies fool you, because this is still a sports saloon, and take a look at the traction control options, because under the hood it features a 3-liter 2JZ GE engine. It's quick and comfy. This Honda Stepwagon is one of the coolest JDM vans. To start, it's got a body kit and tri-spoke wheels. Inside, you'll find that this was optioned with dual sunroofs. Take a closer look at the stitching in the seats and you'll find that it's actually pretty colorful. Unlike my Stepwagon, this is a full 8-passenger model, so you've got a full middle seat. This is actually my second favorite Stepwagon I've reviewed after the Mugen Stepwagon. I've said it once and I'll say it again, these are amazing family haulers. The Toyota Mark II Qualis has the most storage capacity of any Toyota I have seen. Now that we're inside, obviously you have the door storage pockets on both sides. Then you've got a coin slot over here, your glove box, and your ashtray. You've got storage that pops out below the AC system. Top center armrest storage, bottom armrest storage, pop-out cup holders, sunglasses holder, rear ashtray, bottom cup holder, back door pocket, rear armrest tray, and then cup holders. In the back, you got side storage. Inside of the rear cargo mat, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different levels of storage. If you run out of places to put stuff in this car, it's your own fault. This Toyota Crown comes with some super unique features. First, you have power folding mirrors. You've got automatic headlights, and here's the sensor for it. Not only do you have navigation, but you also have TV, as well as CD tape, FM, and AM. This button right here is one of my favorites. You push it, and the rear seat actually moves back for your passenger. And that's another thing, you got reclining rear seats. Air vents that swing side to side since the back doesn't have their own vents. 2 different levels of traction control. A super unique dual hinge center console. A dampened glove box. And of course, I can't forget about that digital display. Overall, this thing is loaded. This is a Toyota Wyndham, and no, it is not a Lexus ES300, it is Toyota's Japanese market equivalent. The Wyndham has 2 main differences over the Lexus ES300. The first, of course, it's right-hand drive, and the second being it was offered with a 2.5-liter V6 instead of the 3-liter that we got here in the United States. Apart from that, these 2 cars are practically identical, so if you're looking for a unique JDM ride but want to blend in with regular traffic, this is it. This is a 1997 Nissan Stagea, and this one in particular is like a time capsule from the late 90s, early 2000s. To start, we've got 1-piece rain guards that go all the way down, and it's got pillarless windows. Up top, you'll find a set of dual antennas, and that's because you've actually got a TV tuner that pops out of the dash. And then this radio has one of these flip-out little speakers. You've got your equalizer, all your adjustments, and everything in here. And a toll card reader to top everything off. This is a Nissan Cedric. Specifically, this is an 8th generation Y32 model. The Cedric was produced for the Japanese market from 1960 all the way up until 2004. This particular Cedric is fitted with some nice WEDS wheels and custom lowering suspension. The inside of the Y32 Cedric is simple yet refined. However, under the hood lies a 255 horsepower turbocharged VG30 engine. This thing's a total sleeper. This is a Toyota Crown, and it's one of the most famous luxury cars to come from Japan. If the name Crown sounds familiar to you, that is because Toyota, rather unfortunately, has re-released the Crown name as a crossover for the global market. However, historically, the Crown has been a luxury saloon sold for the Japanese market since 1955. This model of Crown is the 10th generation made from 95 to 2001 and features your choice of JZ engines under the hood, making this a proper Crown. This is a JDM Volkswagen Polo. No, you heard me correctly. This is a Japanese version of the Volkswagen Polo. Volkswagen shipped a handful of Polos for the Japanese market and had to homologate them for use on Japanese roads. One of the biggest changes, of course, is that the car is right-hand drive. There's also a spot for a roadside flare, and all of the text on the warning labels has been translated over to Japanese. It's JDM. This Suzuki Wagon-R has one of the coolest features that you won't find on any new car today. Any guesses as to what it is? If we take a look here in the passenger seat, if I lift this up, you can see the bottom pops out and becomes a shopping basket. Yes, that is one of the coolest features I've ever seen before, and I don't think I've ever seen it in any other car. This thing is full of surprises. This is a Honda Active van. It's a super simple van, but yet very effective and great to have as a first Japanese car. And let me show you why. All right, now that it's open, let's get started. First off, the Active van is very bare bones, but you do get some features like a radio with 2 front door speakers and air conditioning. This one's a 5-speed manual, but automatics were also offered. The back seat area here has a lot of legroom and, of course, cargo space. Like a lot of cargo space, and you can very easily fold these seats down flat to make it even more room. Also something to note, it's got 2 sliding doors where a lot of vans in Japan only have the 1 sliding door on the other side. It also gets great gas mileage, being that it only has a 3-cylinder engine. The only drawback to this being that you can only go about 60 miles an hour on the highway. However, for a first Japanese vehicle, this is a very good option. This is a Nissan Gloria Gran Turismo, and it's a luxury sports saloon built for the Japanese market. The Gloria was produced by Nissan from 1959 up until 2004. This is a 9th generation Y32 model. While this generation of the Gloria was not offered with a manual transmission, you could get this, a VG30 DET turbocharged V6. Plenty of power and plenty of luxury features. What more could you ask for? This is not an Acura RSX. This is a Honda Integra Type R. While the North American market got the Acura RSX, the international market got the Honda Integra. The Type R came equipped with a K20A under the hood, making 220 horsepower. However, this car has been outfitted with spoon components all over. This begs the question though, would you rather have this DC5 Integra Type R or a DC2? Let me know. This is a Toyota Aristo. It's a Japanese version of the Lexus GS300 we got in the United States. The biggest difference between this and the US version is that this is right-hand drive. The North American model only came with a naturally aspirated 2J, but the Aristo came with a turbocharged version or a 1UZ V8. Oddly enough, these were never offered with a manual, only a 4 or 5-speed automatic. Even still, these cars are incredibly sought after and hold their value to this day. This is a Toyota Land Cruiser Prado, and it's a super capable JDM off-roader. This is the 2nd generation J90 variant and was made in 3 and 5-door configurations. All J90 models came with real-time 4x4 with a high-low selector as standard. The Active Vacation package, which you are looking at, was a dealer option that replaced the 3rd row with a camping setup. With a diesel variant and multiple gasoline options, there is a Prado for everyone.
This is a Nissan Skyline R33 GTR, and here's what makes this one special. This particular car is a V-Spec model, which means it came with Brembo brakes and slightly bigger wheels for more performance advantages over the standard model. Matter of fact, the V-Spec models were very common amongst Group N endurance racers back in the day. And of course, it still has that iconic twin-turbo RB26 under the hood. Examples like this showcase why these things are true JDM icons.
This is a Nissan Silvia S13, and it's been brought over from Russia to the United States. The owner, Artem, swapped over a 13B rotary engine from a Mazda. It has a very unique, meaty stance to it, and take a look at the paint. It's this dark candy red. Artem even stripped the car down to its bare shell and painted the interior as well. This S13 is one of the cleanest examples out there and really goes to show just how far you can take these cars.
This is a JDM BMW 318IS, and you might be thinking to yourself, isn't BMW a European car brand? Well, yes, they are, but take a look at the inside. It's right-hand drive and comes with all Japanese warning labels to make it road legal for use in Japan. The color on this car is Japan wrought, and it is possibly the only one in the United States of its kind. JDM versions of European cars are special, and this one is no exception.
This is a Honda S660, and it's Honda's modern-day interpretation of their original Honda Beat. The S660 is in a class of cars in Japan called K cars, and they're met with some restrictions. The largest two restrictions have to do with overall dimensions and engine displacement. The S660 is just over 11 feet long and weighs just over 1,800 pounds. Under the hood, you'll find a turbocharged 3-cylinder 660cc engine making 64 horsepower. Both of those figures are the upper limit of the K-car class. Inside, the S660 feels very modern with a nicely upholstered interior, a 6-speed manual transmission, though a CVT was offered, and an 8,000 RPM redline. If you enjoyed this video on this car and would like to see it for yourself, head on over to the Lane Motor Museum in Nashville, Tennessee. They have this in their OK exhibit until next year.
This is a Mitsubishi Pajero Evo, and it's a homologated street version of their off-road rally car. Mitsubishi was required to manufacture a certain amount of street vehicles in order to compete in the Dakar Rally. The end result was about 2,500 or so street-legal race cars. They were available with either automatic or manual transmissions. Lastly, all Evos were fitted with 4-wheel drive and a 275 horsepower V6 sitting under the hood.
This is a JDM Toyota Supra, and it's an A70 third generation from Japan. The third generation Supra introduced Toyota's electronically modulated suspension system, giving active dampening to the car. What's cool about this one, along with the wheels and body kit, you can see here it's right-hand drive. This is a true JDM model. That means it didn't come with a 1JZ, but rather a twin-turbocharged 1G GTE under the hood. It's not a US car, but rather, this is a Honda N1, and it's a retro-styled modern K car. In the 2010s, Honda released a series of N cars, the N-Box, the N-Wagon, the N-Van, and this, the N1. The N1 replaced the outgoing Honda Life in their K-car lineup. And because it's a K-car, it's very small and weighs under 2,000 pounds. While most modern cars have 18-inch wheels, this came with 14 or 15-inch wheels. The inside of the N1 is very modern Honda. Matter of fact, most of your switches come straight out of an Accord or CR-V. This premium model comes with an optional Gathers head unit, which is a nice touch. The seats in the N1 are super plush and comfortable and offer a good amount of legroom both for the front and rear passengers. The trunk area is also pretty decent as well. Under the hood, you had an option of either a naturally aspirated or turbocharged 3-cylinder engine. Either one will net you about 50 miles to the gallon. If you enjoyed learning about the N1 and want to see it for yourself, head over to the Lane Motor Museum in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a Honda Z, and it's a K car from Japan. It's also one of the wildest cars I've seen come from Japan. Let me show you what I mean. Take a look under the hood. Now that we're under the hood here, you can see this looks like an engine cover, but it's not. This is actually a storage container, and it's normally meant for a jack to go inside. So you might be thinking, where's the engine? Well, it's back here, and trust me, it is back here. If we pull back this right here, I've already taken out the screws on this cover. You can see the 3-cylinder engine. It's about 660 cc's. These also came turbocharged as well, and this one is 4-wheel drive. Like, what a strange spec for one of these. Here are the 5 weirdest features about this Japanese Renault. Number 1, the window switches are down here by your shins, and the door locks are in the center of the car. Number 2, this switch right here adjusts your headlights up and down. Number 3, everything is hidden away. Your ashtray, your coin box up here, your radio, and your cassette storage. Number 4, the hood is a clamshell that opens up like this. And lastly, number 5, the antenna can be put straight up as if you're in a bumper car. How weird is that? This Subaru Sandbar is one of the coolest K-Vans I have ever seen. If we take a look inside, not only is it a 5-speed manual car, it's also full-time 4-wheel drive, and it's supercharged. Let me show you guys the engine. It's in the back. This is a rear-engined, rear-wheel drive car. So if we pull this lever, pull up, you can see right here the 4-cylinder supercharged engine. This is one of the fastest K-Vans I have ever driven. Probably is the fastest. It's wildly cool and I absolutely dig it. This is not a normal K-truck. This is a Honda Acti Attack. It's a farm truck developed for farmers in Japan. And take a look at what makes this thing so unique. This right here, normally you've got just your 1, 2, 3, 4, but this has an ultra low forward and ultra low reverse. You can see the operation here. This thing is so cool. No matter which way you get stuck in the mud, forward or reverse, you can get yourself out with this. This is a Subaru Sandbar Dios Classic. It's a K-Van from the 90s with classic styling, and it also has some really unique features. Believe it or not, this one's a CVT. You could get this with a 5-speed manual or the CVT transmission, and it's super funky. The gauges have a more classic design to go with the exterior. Another big thing is the headroom, which I've got about 6 inches of here. Although, to be fair, it's a super narrow car, just very tall. This one's got captain's chairs in the 2nd row, and there's no 3rd row. You do get a lot of cargo capacity. And back here is where the engine is. If you pull this, you can actually see the 4-cylinder engine that lies back here. It doesn't make a lot of power, but it is super fun. This is a Suzuki Jimny. It's one of the coolest K cars with some of the weirdest features. First off, you have this mirror here, which allows the driver to see exactly the corner of the car. Next, this thing is very utilitarian and has the hinges on the outside of the car like an older G-Wagon. And that means there's a door strap to hold the door from going any further inside. Next, to get into the hood, you have to open the glove box and pull from here. Once you're under the hood, you'll see that you've got the jack up front, and this thing is turbocharged, but it's also like the smallest turbocharger out there. This is 660 cc's and makes 64 horsepower, give or take a little bit. All that with 4 high and 4 low. This thing is awesome. Here are all of the things you do get and don't get on the Suzuki Cappuccino. The first thing you don't get is legroom. My leg is literally pinned up against the steering wheel with the door shut. You do, however, get a removable roof in 3 different pieces. You don't get any buttons on the dash whatsoever except for this one, which is the rear defrost. You do get a 5-speed manual. You don't get anything power except for the windows. You do get an ashtray, but it is incredibly small. You don't get any driver aids. There's not even cruise control. You do get a cool light that tells you when your turbocharger is working. While you do get a radio, you do not get 4-channel audio. The only speakers that come with the car are mounted up here, and they're about 4 inches. However, this car is outfitted with some aftermarket tweeters up top. You don't get a massively powerful engine, but you do get a turbocharger. And at the end of the day, you do get a pretty cool car.
This is a Toyota Chaser. It's a Japanese import that's been brought over to the United States. The Chaser was one of Toyota's best-selling cars and was produced from 1977 up until 2001. This particular model is an X90 5th generation and comes with a twin turbocharged 1JZ under the hood. However, there were a total of 6 engine options available for the X90, including a turbo diesel. With every engine option offering a manual transmission and the car being rear-wheel drive, these are amazing drift cars. This is a Honda Life. It's a tiny JDM K car hatchback from Japan. To give you an idea of how small the car is, here's a Rolls-Royce for reference. Most luxury cars have a wheelbase larger than the overall length of this car. However, due to Honda's clever engineering, the interior is actually quite spacious for its size. Even backseat passengers will find that there's a decent amount of legroom. And while you do get a 5-speed manual in this car, because it's a K car, you still don't get very many options. There's not even a tachometer. The Life was also Honda's first K car to offer an airbag for the driver as standard. Powering this car is a 3-cylinder 657cc engine developing 51 horsepower. While it's not fast, it's still a ton of fun. This is a first-generation Honda Today, and it's historically significant because it was one of the first Todays ever imported into the United States. The first-generation models are a little bit different than the K cars you might be used to seeing these days. The two biggest key differences on this one have to be a 4-speed manual versus a 5-speed, and a 2-cylinder versus a 3-cylinder engine. While more modern K cars top out at about 60 horsepower or so, this one is just half that. This is a Nissan Vanette truck, and it's a Japanese import truck brought over to the United States. Believe it or not, this is not a K truck as a lot of people think it is. It's actually bigger and features dually wheels in the back and a 1,000 kilogram weight rating instead of about 500. The cab's a lot bigger than a K truck too, with 3 across seating instead of the traditional 2. This one's particularly well optioned with a 5-speed manual, 4-high, 4-low selector, and even a diesel engine.
This is the Daihatsu Move SRXX Turbo 4-wheel drive. I recently featured this car, but it's needed some work done to it, and while the front end's off, I wanted to show you guys something. Of course, it's turbocharged. They really touted on the intercooler there, but look at how big the turbo is. It is like a couple of inches. It is absolutely tiny. Normal turbochargers on more modern cars with bigger engines are about the size of your fist, but this one only develops about 64 horsepower overall from that 3-cylinder. It's crazy. This is a Daihatsu Delta, and on it we have an Evo 4 and an Evo 5 here. This is like one of the coolest things. And we're here in North America too. This is something that you totally don't see. Of course, this thing is right-hand drive. The cab is massive, 3 across seating, and it's a manual. These things are super fun and super reliable. You can get like 1,000,000 kilometers out of these things. They're absolutely amazing and they go forever. This Nissan March is the epitome of base model car. Let me show you what all you don't get in this thing. The only options this car has are power windows, power door locks, and power mirrors, which is a super strange option. But everything else you don't get. You don't get storage here. There's just a fuse box. You don't get a regular cup holder. It's actually just like a bar that sits in the middle. You don't get a clock that's right here. And then it's even worse in the back. There's nothing. You get no air conditioning vents. You don't even get an armrest. No cup holders of any kind. And the same goes for the trunk area. There's absolutely nothing back there but a parcel shelf. You don't even get a super powerful engine. This one only makes about 55 horsepower. But you'll forget about all of this when you go and drive it because it is a super lovable little car. This is a Mitsubishi Evo 5 RS. There's only a handful of them in the United States. There's only 750 of them made. This one's had an engine swap from Evo 7, super quick. And if we take a look inside here, you'll see it doesn't have the normal Recaro setup you're used to in some Evos. This one has an aftermarket Recaro here. And you can see the shift pattern here and here and here. But more importantly, you have the Tane damper system here, which makes the suspension really, really active. This car is amazing. It's up for offer at Hoshi Motion. You guys check them out. This thing rocks. This is a Honda partner. It's essentially a base model Honda Orthia, which I owned for a couple of years. What's interesting about this one is that it was owned by the city of Nagoya, Japan. And you can see it's like a delivery van here. Matter of fact, it has a decent weight rating for cargo capacity of 400 kilograms. That's about 50 more than the average K truck. Now I'm going to be uploading a few videos on this thing over the next couple of days. So you guys stay tuned to learn all about this thing. I'm very excited. There's a lot to talk about. Here's everything you'll find on a Toyota Caldina GTT. For starters, you got this body kit that goes all the way around, and this one has 2 spoilers. Inside, of course, it's right-hand drive. Up here, you'll notice it's got a sunglasses holder. Right here's one of the more interesting things. It's a 12 volt to 100 volt switch. When you press it, it'll allow you to run a household style outlet here in the back seat. The pattern on the seats is like a bowling alley. You got power mirrors, and they're also retractable. This one's a manual. The trunk area is also super unique because you have storage all the way back here. You even got power back here too. But the thing everyone wants to see is a 2-liter, 260 horsepower engine under the hood. And to top it all off, this thing's all-wheel drive. This is a Mazda Bongo, and it's a JDM truck for people that want a K truck but want more usability. This is bigger than a K truck but still features a lot of K truck features, just in a bigger capacity, like 3 across seating, as you can see here. For instance, this is the size of a cab on a K truck compared to the size of the cab on the Bongo. The bed is also much bigger than a K truck, but it still has the sides where you can fold them down flat. And check out the weight rating, 850 kilograms. Now for my American viewers, that's almost 2,000 pounds, whereas your traditional K truck will only be able to haul around about 750 pounds. This thing is awesome. You can take it on the freeway versus a K truck that tops out at about 55. This will do 70 miles an hour easily, and they're super reliable, super fun, and I absolutely love these things. If you guys are unfamiliar with what this is a Honda Step Wagon. It's one of my favorite minivans. I actually own one of these. They're imported from Japan. And this interior is what it looks like when you have one in immaculate condition. The colors are all there. Everything looks wonderful. And the best part, it's only got 17,000 miles. That's 27,828 kilometers. So 17,000 miles. And this interior looks like it's absolutely brand new. I absolutely love this thing. What do you guys think? Here are all of the features on this 1978 Toyota Crown Super Saloon. First off, not only do you get these cool fender mirrors, they're also power operated. The same goes for your windows. You even have an automatic driver's window, and they're pillarless. You have a vent bypass down here, your fog light switch, gotta have overdrive, 1, 2, 3, 4 horn buttons, digital clock, air conditioning, cassette AM and FM radio, individual front map lights, seat doilies, there's even doilies for the headrests, cigarette lighter, and a tremendously deep ashtray. Power trunk opener, but the coolest thing for 1978, you get a fuel-injected engine under the hood. This one's only got 32,000 kilometers on it, and it's for sale here at Southeast Imports. It's an incredible example of its kind. I absolutely love the styling of these things. You don't see them too often. This is a Daihatsu Hi-Jet Jumbo, and it's a K truck that actually makes a lot of sense to own. For instance, the jumbo part is the cab. You can see it's extended out a lot, which gives you a lot more room past the back of the seats. And the cab is also extended upwards as well, so you have more headroom. This truck does make a lot of sense to own, and there's a lot of really cool features to it. I'll be going over it in a part 2, so be sure you're following me and stay tuned for more. This is a Toyota Crown. It's a Japanese luxury saloon, and it has one of my all-time favorite features in any car. Any guesses as to what it is? Take a look at this button right here. See, it says swing. Watch the vents. They'll oscillate back and forth as there's no rear air vent in this car. Instead, it's taken up by controls, but it equally distributes the air entirely throughout the cabin. I've never seen another car with this feature. It's super wild. Here's everything you'll find inside the first generation Nissan Cube. To start us off, one of the coolest features is this thing actually had factory navigation. You've got a column shifter with overdrive, a grand total of 1, 2, 3 cup holders, power adjustable mirrors, power windows, and power door locks. The back seat area has this hook for groceries. The back seats also recline. And when you recline, you have this extra window in the back. The trunk area actually has one of my favorite things. It's these little mascots for the Cube. They just look so happy. Also back here, you have hooks on both sides for nets and hooks down here for tie downs. Lastly, under the hood, you have a 1.3 liter 4-cylinder engine making about 60 horsepower. Later in its lifespan, the first generation model could have an 85 horsepower engine as well. All that paired with a 4-speed automatic or a CVT, this thing makes an excellent daily driver car. This is a Toyota Crown Royal Saloon Extra. It's a JDM luxury wagon. Take a look on the inside. There's actually some really unique and cool features, like the oscillating vents that you get with this thing, the massive ashtray here, and then if we take a look in the back, you'll see it's got a raised roof for the passengers, so there's tons of headroom back here, and because it's a wagon, you've also got the usability of the back end. All that with a 1G FE 6-cylinder engine up front. This thing has it all. This Daihatsu Hijet Jumbo is one of the most unique K trucks I've ever seen. First off, it's red. Most of the trucks I've seen, matter of fact, all of them pretty much, have been white. This is the first red one. Second off, because it's a jumbo, the seats recline and you have more room behind those seats. And then if you look up top here, you've got a storage net, a dimmer switch, and a whole lot more. Gotta say, if you're a bigger guy like I am, this might be the perfect K truck for you. This is not your average Mitsubishi mini cab. Matter of fact, it's one of the most pristine examples in existence. Take a look at the interior, no rips or tears, and that's because this thing only has 4,200 kilometers on it. That's 2,500 miles. And take a look at the bed. Normally you'd expect to see rust, but previous owners took good care of it, put this cover on it in Japan. It's absolutely amazing. If you guys like K trucks like this, there's plenty more over at my friends Southeast Imports. I'll tag them up here. Go check them out.
This is a JDM Honda Prelude SI, and it has a clever trick up its sleeve. That trick being that it has four-wheel steering. The rear wheels can tilt up to 18 degrees, allowing for a smaller turning radius. This car is sitting on air suspension and some nice BBS RS wheels. And of course, once you look in the interior, you'll notice it's right-hand drive because, again, the car is Japanese. Lastly, fun fact, Honda had to tilt the engine a little bit to fit it under the hood because the hood line was so low. Pretty cool.
This is a Toyota Town Ace. It's a Japanese truck that's bigger and more capable than a K truck. Just how much bigger and more capable is it? Well, you can see here we've got a K truck in the bed. This is a Daihatsu Midget, and it's completely on the bed with all the bed sides folded down. This thing has a metric ton weight capacity for the rear, so this thing goes on there just fine. These are awesome trucks to have. This is a Mitsubishi RVR. It stands for Recreational Vehicle Runner. And it's a Japanese import that's actually not a two-door, but a three-door minivan. Yes, take a look inside here, and you'll see it's got a sliding door. You can actually move the seats up and back, and they also fold up for more storage. It's totally wild, totally weird. And this is one of the first ones that we're getting of this newer generation. And you can even option these out with the 4G63. This Mitsubishi Delica is a Japanese minivan that can go absolutely anywhere. Let me show you what I mean. So first off, this thing is lifted from the factory. Next, if we look inside, you'll see not only is it a manual, it's also got 4 high, 4 low. And then next, the big part here, under the seats, this thing is mid-engined. That is a diesel engine under there. So this thing is totally unstoppable and will go over just about any terrain while carrying 7 passengers. This thing is awesome. This is a JDM Opel Astra. And I know what you might be thinking, well, what makes it JDM? Well, let's take a look inside and you'll see why. Take a look at the visors. Everything's in Japanese, and of course, it's right-hand drive. Apart from these things, there's only a few more minor details. This is basically the same as a European spec one of these, but it's really unique to see, and it's always fun to see a car that was made for a different market as well.
This is an Autech R33 Skyline, and it is essentially a factory R33 GTR sedan. Autech was commissioned by Nissan to make a special run of 4-door GTRs for their 40th anniversary of the Skyline. On the outside, there's a GTR front fascia and GTR rear haunches. Inside the car, you'll find the interior looks like a GTR as well, with the front buckets and even matching rear seats. However, the real party trick lies under the hood with Nissan's famous RB26 engine. Combine all that with the 5-speed manual and all-wheel drive, and you've got yourself a 4-door GTR.
This is a Mitsubishi RVR, and it is a 3-door Evo minivan. Getting straight to the point, this car has a 4G63 under the hood, the same as a Mitsubishi Evo. And apart from the wing on the outside, this thing is a complete sleeper. On the inside of the car, the back seats have tons of legroom, and that's because there's only 1 row in the back. But up front, it's got heavier bolstered bucket seats as well as a 5-speed all-wheel drive transmission. This thing really is an Evo in disguise. This is a Nissan SEMA, and it's a JDM luxury sedan that's been imported to the United States. The SEMA was produced from 1988 to 2022, and this is a second generation model produced from the early to mid 90s. Of course, this SEMA in particular is pretty highly modified with some nice 3-piece wheels, and take a look at the fitment. Moving on to the interior, again, this is a luxury car, so there are plenty of luxury materials. And in true Japanese luxury car fashion, all the seats have doilies on them. Under the hood is a variant of the V8 found in the Infiniti Q45. All in all, it's a solid automobile.
This is a Mitsubishi Minica Topo BJ.
Hey, yo!
And don't come after me in the comments section, that's literally what it's called. With that being said, this has the most storage of any K car.
Starting up front, of course, you have your glove box, but then up here, you've got a little storage pocket hidden away, as well as an indent in the dash for holding small objects, as well as this little area here. And of course, you got your door pockets on either side. But check this out on top. You have a card holder, a glasses holder, and a sunglasses holder. Moving into the back seat area, you'll see that there are the door pockets again, but there's no netting here because there's limited space. But if you look up, it's up on the ceiling. Moving to the trunk of the car, you've got storage here on the tailgate as well as this side pocket here. But one of the coolest things is this organizer in the very back that's also removable. And if you need more room for longer items, you can fold the seats down. With a really tall roof that offers a lot of cabin space, if you run out of places to put stuff, it's your own fault. This is a Daihatsu Atri, and it's one of the raddest K-vans. Starting with the exterior, this thing is an RT Limited. You can tell it's an RT Limited
Because of the way it is.
because of the massive graphics. Like, they really want you to know the spec. And this thing has a factory body kit, some nice yellow fog lights, and it even has a spoiler out back. Like a massive spoiler. And it doesn't pick up super well on camera, but this thing is like blue-purple. Moving on to the interior, take a look at the pattern on the seats. It totally reminds me of like movie theater carpet. Now the back seat area is super interesting. First off, you have crank windows. Next, if you take out the headrest, you can actually pull these seats down into the floor and fold them flat for a large cargo capacity. But this van has one final trick up its sleeve. Check this out. The whole thing turns into a bed. Now, of course, I'm using the term bed lightly, but still, you got a place to rest your head. Overall, I think this thing's pretty neat. This is a JDM Toyota MR2, and it is absolutely bonkers. Of course, since it's Japanese, you can see it's right-hand drive, but let's get straight to the point here. Around back is a turbocharged 3S GTE. This one in particular has been modified to about 300 horsepower, and it sounds fantastic. Take a listen. With that being said, this thing is an absolute rocket ship. Or according to this thing here, midship. Mature, sporty, personal, more innovation, more adult. A man in dandism, which is like manly. A lot of Japanese cars have stuff like that on them, I don't know. But with the curb weight of under 3,000 pounds, this thing is quick. This is a Toyota Century, and it is Toyota's luxury flagship model from Japan. Toyota has continuously produced the Century since 1967, and this one's only a second-generation model. And as the badges on the side of this one say, this is a 5-liter V12 car. It's got custom intake piping, and take a look at the custom graphics on the engine cover. This car was also the winner of the Best Wheel Award at Slammed Enough Gatlinburg. They're a collaboration between Luxury Abstract and Junction Produce. But what makes a Century is the luxurious interior, and this one is no exception. This is the only Century I've ever seen with custom upholstery, and take a look at that. Still has the pass-through. As far as JDM luxury goes, it doesn't get much better than this. This is a Mazda Bongo Friendly, and it's the ultimate JDM camping machine. To start us off, watch what happens when I push these two buttons. It's got automatic shades, but the back seat area is really where it's at. Let me show you. Starting off in the floor, you've got these footrests on both sides. Next, the AC controls back here are phenomenal. Also, you can control each shade individually back here. Next, the seats do a whole bunch of stuff. Not only do they slide back and forth on these rails, giving the occupants a bunch of legroom, but they also do some tricks like having a tray table back here. And the best part is that they make a bed. But we're not done yet. There's still one more cool thing up top. If I push this button here, it becomes a pop-top camper. All you do is just push up on this hatch, and you've got a pretty rooming camping area. That means this thing sleeps up to a family of
4. Mix all that with the turbo diesel engine, and these things are unstoppable.
This is a Mitsubishi Legnum VR4, and it is a JDM performance wagon. If the car looks familiar to you, but the name Legnum doesn't ring a bell, that's because this car was also sold as the Gallant. Now, even though the color of this one is bright red, let's get to why this thing is a total wolf in sheep's clothing. Firstly, these were fitted with 4-wheel drive with stability control and traction control. Moving on to the interior, of course it's right-hand drive, and the steering wheel is from Nardi. You've also got a 5-speed Tiptronic transmission, and get this, a twin turbocharged V6 engine under the hood. If you're thinking you'd like to own one yourself, be sure to check out my friends over at Hoshi Motion, and they can get you one.
This JDM Mitsubishi Delica is closer related to a semi-truck than you might think. Let's start off out front here with this massive bar across the front with off-road lights. Also, look at the shape of the mirrors and how far they stick out. Up front are these massive mud flaps. And around back, there's even bigger ones that are held on with a chain and have reflectors. You got a steel bar and work lights. Before we go inside, integrated into the front bumper are these steps. Moving into the cab, you'll see it's decorated like some of the trucks you'd find in India. The steering wheel has this massive knob for steering with one hand. And over here, you got the massive big old shifter, as well as a 4-high, 4-low selector, so it looks like a twin stick. Because not only is this thing a cab over, it's also a turbo diesel. And now that it's over here in the United States, you can really tell that somebody absolutely loved this van.
This is a Suzuki Carry, and it's one of the coolest K trucks of all time. Not only does it have a Rocket Bunny wide body kit, but it has a dump bed. The best part is that the owner uses this to tote around his motorcycle in the bed. He also custom fabricated some parts on the car with his dad. What's funny is that it's still rocking the 50 horsepower engine, but somehow has 245 wide tires on it. Super rad.
Here's everything you'll find in a JDM Morris Mini. Starting on the outside, it's got 10-inch wheels, and covering them up are these nice fender flares. Up top, you can see it sports a classic 2-tone paint, and around back in the boot, you've got a nice area for storage. Yes, you can see it's right-hand drive. But this thing's got some quirks, like for instance, let me present to you the smallest glove box. This one's an automatic. You can see here the horn button doesn't work, it's just this round wooden piece, but it's actually down here on the column. There's a hidden ashtray in the dash, and if you couldn't tell, in true Mini Cooper fashion, everything is trimmed in wood. And I've actually got legroom as well as headroom, more so than some K cars like this one. Even the backseat passengers have some legroom. And then under the hood, you have an absolutely tiny fuel-injected 4-cylinder engine making 62 horsepower. And with no power steering, you really have to drive this car hard. But at the end of the day, I think that's what makes this the most rewarding. This is an Autech Stagia, and in essence, it is a Nissan R33 GTR wagon. Starting on the outside here, the bumpers, side skirts, and wing have all been replaced with Autech specific ones. To further enforce the fact this thing is basically a GTR wagon, you have GTR stamped onto all of the coilovers. Under the hood, you have the famous RB26 engine. It is a twin turbo inline 6 engine making 280 horsepower, supposedly. In all reality, these things came with more horsepower than advertised. What's also cool about the Autechs is that they have a custom interior for these that has orange on the inserts and in all the stitching. And because the drivetrain came from an R33 GTR, this thing only came with a 5-speed manual and all-wheel drive. And the best part about this one, it's for sale. Take a look at these guys. They've got it on offer. This is the first Autech Gen 2 in the United States. If we're talking about exclusivity, this car is it. This is a Nissan Skyline R33 sedan, and it's one of the coolest family haulers from Japan. Now, when you think Skyline, a lot of people think about the GTRs, of course, but you shouldn't count these out. Inside, of course, it's right-hand drive, and the driver's area is super nice. You've even got these really cool bucket seats. And then the back seat area actually has quite a bit of legroom. I'm 6'2", the seat's in my driving position. But here's a few things the enthusiasts will love. First off, a 5-speed manual. And you can see this thing has an aftermarket boost gauge as well as one in the cluster. And that's because if we go under the hood, you'll find Nissan's famous RB25 DET. Of course, that's a turbocharged inline 6-cylinder engine making around 300 horsepower. Also, this thing's rear-wheel drive, meaning that this family sedan will drift. And the best part, you can get this from my friends at Southeast Imports for under 20 grand. I'll put their info up here at the top. All in, this thing is tons of fun on a budget.
This is a Nissan S15 Varietta, and it is an ultra-rare JDM hardtop convertible. In total, there were fewer than 1,200 Variettas ever produced for the Japanese market. Nissan actually had their specialty division, Autech, develop the hardtop convertible for the S15. However, everything else remained practically the same from the base car, and that includes the interior and the SR20DE engine. This particular example has custom paint, is slammed to the ground, and features some really nice wheels. The owner even went so far to have custom stickers made of the car. This just may be the coolest example out there. This is not an R34 GTR. What you're looking at is actually a Nissan Stagea with an R34 front end. But not only that, this thing is an Autech Stagea, meaning it is the closest thing you're going to be able to get to an actual R33 GTR wagon. Autech put the RB26 from a GTR into the Stagea and turned it into this monster. It's probably the coolest wagon ever made. This is a Toyota Chaser, and it's one of the most unique and beautiful examples of its platform. Every nut and bolt has been turned on this car in some way, shape, or form to produce this one-off example. The paint is Midnight Purple 3 from a GTR. The hood has been half cut to reveal a 2JZ swap with beautiful etchwork all the way around. The wheels are these beautiful two-piece work emotion wheels fitted with some Toyo tires. Lastly, the interior ties everything together with these Brid Vertex combo seats. Overall, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more unique example than this one.
This is a Subaru Sandbar, and it's one of the coolest JDM K-Vans. Getting us started here on the outside, you can see up top, it has dual sunroofs. This one tilts up and that one goes back. Next, the engine is in the very back here. You could even get one of these things supercharged. And as you can see from the side here, this one's four-wheel drive. Matter of fact, when we go inside here, you can see the four-wheel drive selector is on the gear shift. And of course, with it being Japanese, it's right-hand drive. Apart from this thing having air conditioning, this thing's pretty bare bones. However, the seating area in here is super cool. To demonstrate, I'm going to take out the headrests. First off, with the row locked into position, you can pick the whole thing up and you've got extra storage down below it. Next, if you push this lever, you can fold the seats down flat. If you pull this lever, you can actually fold the seats down into the floor. But this interior has one more party trick because you can turn this into a bed. Well, at least this side does. Regardless, at the end of the day, this thing is super cool. This is a first-generation Honda HR-V, and it's one of the coolest and most obscure Japanese cars you've probably never seen before. Now, if you're from North America, you're probably familiar with the HR-Vs of 2013 and up, but the first generation was available in Japan from 1998. Now, let's talk about what makes this thing so cool. First off, it's a two-door, but clearly this thing is an SUV. The inside of the car is the start of Honda's more modern generation of interiors. The enthusiasts will love this. This is a 5-speed manual transmission, although a CVT was also offered. Let's take a look under the hood. We've got a single cam D16 engine. This one's also 4-wheel drive. You could even get one of these with VTEC. Overall, the first generation HR-V is one of my all-time favorite Japanese cars. This is a Mitsubishi Minicab Mighty, and it's one of the coolest K-trucks. Right off the bat, this is going to be a little bit older than some K-trucks you might be used to seeing here in the US. But the basic principles are still the same, including flip down bedsides. And this thing is mid-engine like most K-trucks, making about 35 horsepower in this configuration. Moving to the inside, we can see what makes this thing super unique. Keep in mind, this was a feature of the 80s. It's got that iconic green glow color to it. There's not a lot of options. You don't even get a tape player. You just have an AM radio, and there's no air conditioning. And if we take a close look at the shifter, there's no 5th speed like you get in some of the later model K-trucks. However, what was slightly ahead of its time was this 4-high, 4-low selector that could be changed on the fly. And that makes these things incredibly capable. All things considered, this is one cool work truck.